The decision's been made. Let's talk big picture. What's next? Ultimately, can this work with a very special guest? Locked On Badgers, let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being an everydayer and tuning into us, helping us build this community. Today's episode, we are talking to Jon McNamara, 247 Sports. Really excited for this one. Big picture. Can this work? Your questions. What's next? Jon McNamara joins the show for the, I don't know, fourth or fifth time, but it's been a while because you've been in transition and you're doing amazing things at 247. But man, I really wanted to get you on the show. I told you this before, but I think you have a really great perspective on this kind of stuff. You've been around a long time. I think you speak directly, but you do it without kind of jumping to, I don't want to say extremes on either end, but you just have a very balanced, well thought out perspective on things like this. So I'm excited to talk to you, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That means a lot, and might just be a way of saying I've been doing this for a long time. But yeah, it's been interesting, and I think I'm not the only one in this boat. You hear a lot of things, right? And you want to make sure that you're providing, accurate stuff and stuff that is above everything accurate, right? And I think we've done a lot of that on the message board, and that's why I know that we'll kind of get into this, but Thursday's message was not surprising because the stuff that we've been hearing now really for 6 weeks, really since that Maryland loss, was how can Wisconsin get Luke FICKELL into year 4? And now that's all but official, right? I don't see a scenario where that changes because of the messaging that CHRIS MCINTOSH gave on Thursday evening.
I want to dive right there for my first question because the reporting you've done on your board yourself, Nick Oss and Payne, I had heard similar things probably around at the same time and had said the same on my show. Hey, I think he's going to be the coach in 26. Then you had Mac with the letter to the fans, Tollner with the vote of confidence. Why does it feel like so many people are angrier yesterday than the day before when I think most people knew this was happening?
Yeah, that's a good question. And none of these messages or votes of confidence have really rallied the fan base or got people to say, yeah, now I like where this is going. So you can talk about the timing of those. I think Thursday, the most recent one, was largely to speak to that locker room, which had been addressed previously by CHRIS MCINTOSH, speak to that 26 class, which as a group had talked to McIntosh, and I believe Pat Lambert. I'm not sure if anyone else was in on that conversation. And then speak to the upcoming transfer portal. So three big kind of components there. I have to believe that athletic department knew that messaging would not go over well with fans. I mean, no one is going to buy a ticket based on Thursday for Saturday's game because they're fired up. I think it kind of stoked the fire, if anything, but internally, I think that now gets everyone on the same page, whether you agree with it, whether you disagree, whether you're in the middle, at least it gets everyone on the same page for the remaining 4 games, for signing day on December 3rd. And then the portal opens up mid-January-ish. So those big 3 things, again, whether you like it, disagree with it, hate it, at least gives a clear message that's been delivered from the top that this is how things will look into 2026, right?
I think that makes a ton of sense. Yeah, I'm tracking all that. I almost wonder, should there be, because listen, you and I both talk to a lot of Badger fans, right, on your board, on this show, and it feels like the general consensus I get from a lot of Badger fans is we just feel ignored, right? We feel like what we're saying isn't being heard. Should there, and I hear you, like the message to the locker room, recruiting, portal, and I think those are incredibly important, but should there be more of an emphasis on, hey, let me talk to the fans now?
Yeah, right. I mean, because those are the same people you're asking money for or from, right? I mean, those are the people that you're relying on now to come and spend their money at Camp Randall in the surrounding area. And those are the people that, when these studies are done, those are the people that they're taking into account of the lost revenue and the 200 million plus that could potentially be out the door in 26. So yeah, and I don't know that there will ever be a messaging that is going to appease the entire fan base or a good chunk of it, but I do think that fans want to know a bit more. We are going to be better. We're going to get more money, but in how those things look, I think fans are curious about. But at the same time, how much can the athletic department truly say? They are not going to come out and say, we are going to spend $3.5 million on a quarterback. We're going to spend this on an offensive line. They're not going to come out and say that. So I get that fans are looking for, okay, great, you're coming out with these 3 different messages, but what will change? And Chris McINTOSH really hasn't provided any of that. And not that anyone has expected him to do, but that's where the big disconnect is. We're going to do all these things different. We've identified, but what are those things? What have you identified? What is going to be put in place? I think that's what fans want to see. I don't think this is a fan base that is completely lost and gone. I think that this is a fan base that they're hanging on to any sort of hope that they might get. They just want to know what that's going to look like, right? And it's just a difficult thing to bring this thing back for a 4th season with how low the program seems right now. Even if Chris McINTOSH is seeing the bigger picture better and more clearly than anyone else. I don't know if I agree with the words that just came out of my mouth, but fans are looking for, okay, you've identified, but what is going to happen now? And we're not going to get those answers anytime soon, likely.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. Let me ask you this. This is something that bothered me, and I'm curious. You tell me if I'm crazy for this, please. Like, I can take it. I didn't like, and I really like Jesse Temple. I've met him in person. I think he's really talented. This is not a Jesse Temple thing, anything like that. I did not like releasing this type of message behind a paywall that a lot of fans don't have.
Yeah, without a doubt. And that's, I know you're not knocking Jesse. I love Jesse. I think he's phenomenal.
Yep.
Jesse, I think, asked without a doubt the appropriate questions, right? But just like a lot of these things, the timing is bad, or the substance is not appropriate, or the message is not appropriate. And I'm not saying any of that stuff was on Thursday, but yeah, like, you're delivering this behind a paywall to the fans who you're asking to pay to read what you're going to say about the program that you're already asking them to pay for, on top of all the other thing. And some of that message was just like, and we're going to need more from you guys, and we're going to need it. Just, you're continuing to hammer a fan base that I don't know that Chris McINTOSH truly has a grasp of the overall feeling of the group of people that, you and I, just normal everyday people, are engaging with constantly. I mean, through the message boards, through a podcast, through people reaching out to you. I mean, the consensus isn't healthy right now amongst the fan base. And I don't know if Chris McINTOSH truly grasps that. I don't know if it's going to take 40,000 people inside Camp Randall to open a 26 season to fully understand it, to see it. Maybe you see it tomorrow. I don't know. But like, I truly don't know and this is not to just go on a different tangent here, but this is bigger than football to me in terms of the disconnect between athletic department decision makers and the everyday fan that is and largely has supported this program for 30 years. I don't think those two groups are seeing eye to eye on anything. And I have to put a lot of that on Chris McINTOSH, who should be the perfect person to be like, I know exactly how this goes. I played here. I'm from Pewaukee. I've done this all. Barry Alvarez brought me up through this. And to see that disconnect, at least from my perspective, it's just odd to me. It's just really odd, from the bricks to the breaking down the track program to the scandals going on in other programs at Wisconsin. I don't know if you call them scandals, but the legal things that are going on, right, that have been reported on. They're just not in a great spot right now. And to say that we're just going to get more money and everything's going to be better, I'm just not in. I guess I gotta see it. And I'm very curious to see how that money's spent, where they plan to allocate it, what the changes they're going to make. I mean, there's just so much that goes into it.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. And it was so nebulous. Everything that you hear him say just feels nebulous. It doesn't feel concrete. It feels a little like a politician almost speaking to a group of constituents, that nobody's really buying it because it doesn't feel authentic. And I think my biggest frustration, again, and you hit on it really well, is it's so tone deaf to go behind a paywall and talk about needing more money when just go and do a press conference. This is my opinion, and you tell me if I'm crazy. Take questions and put yourself forward and be authentic and own it. I think people in the Midwest really own and love authenticity.
Without a doubt. And look, as this has gone on, I mean, just from dealing with different groups of coaches from different sports and different, communications people, right? I mean, you're getting more and more concentrated on the people that you talk to, the message that's getting out. And look, that's strategic on the Wisconsin communication side, right? But to say, like, I love Jesse. I consider him a friend. He got the interview. He's in that position to do it. I think that's great. But to say, I'll talk to you and then two more, and then I'll talk to Thamel, and then I'm not going to open up really for questions for anyone else. I'm not like hurt about that, right? Like, I wasn't invited to the stuff, and like 24/7 wasn't. It is what it is. But yeah, like, when you're in that position, when you're making that amount of money, and when you're doing something that is largely zagging against the grain of what the fan base largely has vocalized, right? I think you need to go up there for 20 minutes and say, look, I'm just going to take it right now. And I'm going to, whoever wants to come to this, whatever credential media, I'll be here, come at 5:00. I'll be here till 5:30. We'll take it all. We'll just suck it up, and we'll go from there. But it was a more calculated response. Was that the right way? Was that the wrong way? I don't know. I guess I'm a little biased in my answer there, but yeah, I mean, with everything that's at stake and the money that's involved here, yeah, you should be up there answering those questions to whoever from that media wants to show up and ask.
Oh, could not agree more. I mean, I have so many questions for Jon. I'm going to try to get them all in, plus a bunch of yours from the Discord. So we're going to take a quick second. We're going to come back with some more of your questions, plus a couple narratives I want to ask Jon about if he thinks they're fair or not. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. First, a quick second for our friends of the show over at DoorDash. DoorDash is incredible. I talk about DoorDash all the time. Every Saturday, you can save on DoorDash streaks. So if you order one Saturday and then the next Saturday and the next Saturday, you can stack up those savings, just like your favorite player maybe delivers every single Saturday. Basketball is coming on. John Blackwell is going to be one of those guys that delivers every single Saturday or every single day for the Badgers. And DoorDash Streaks is going to deliver every single Saturday for you if you're trying to stock up for the football weekend. Just like John Blackwell always delivers, DoorDash delivers for you in a big way. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order, save it up all season, and you can stack up to $250 in savings, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day. Only with DoorDash. Terms to apply. Promo period through 11/18. All right, coming back with Jon McNamara, 247 Sports. Definitely want to give you an opportunity, man, to talk about your great platform, the team you have. How can people kind of continue to find the work you're doing?
Yeah, thank you. 24/7 Sports, Badger 24/7. Things have been great since coming over. I think right away in June. Nick Osen's a star. Like I told you before, he's the star of our show, the face of the show. He's the best looking, maybe. Payne's a pretty good looking guy too, but it's been just amazing to work with those two guys. We brought over a couple photographers as well, a lot of our story ideas, and the message board's been great. The community's been great. I couldn't be happier with that decision. But it's largely just getting to work with really great people. So I'm very happy, and it's been a difficult grind, right? I mean, I've talked to Nick and Payne and other people. I've talked to Jay Kokorowski last night. It's just this is a difficult thing to cover. I mean, no one knows that probably better than you, right? This is a difficult thing to cover on a daily basis, to try to keep things fresh and new and different. It's been a grind. Not that I'm complaining about it. It's just it's unique. It's a unique situation. I think everyone's just kind of working through it the best they can. But things have been real good on the site. The page clicks, the numbers, everything. We'd love to earn your business, even with some. I'm not calling for your money like Chris McINTOSH is, I promise you. But we'd love to get you a shot on our board.
No, please go check out the work they do. I'm a sub there. I've been for a long time. I've been a big fan of Jon McNamara for a long, long time, as I've told him. But also Nick Osen, Payne, great work. Go check out their work, please, at 247. Let me ask you this, Jon. Is there any way McINTOSH could have done this in a way that the fan base has reached a certain point where we just got to see it on the field? Is there anything he could have said where fans would have been like, okay, I'm kind of behind this now?
Probably not, right? I mean, especially with kind of the third go around here. I don't know that I can come out and say, if he would have just said this, people would have been okay. He likely could have said anything and there'd be a pretty decent chunk of fans that would have said, he needs to go, everyone needs to go type of thing. So I really don't think so. But I mean, you kind of alluded to it before, just like, you can admit some defeat here. You can admit some mistake, and you could maybe give a hint at to like, what our thought process is here, like why we think this could work in year 4 and what that plan is. And again, I know there's probably stuff that you just are not able to say. There's probably stuff that is not determined yet, but to say that we're just going to fix it after watching this for 3 years, why would fans feel like this is going to work? I do think, if anything, right now, and I felt this way 3 years ago, but Luke Fickell and Chris McIntosh are essentially tied to the same bungee cord right now. I mean, those two are hip to hip right now, if they've ever been. I mean, if they are going to succeed, if they're going to fail, they are going to do it together. And I think that's kind of maybe the last card that McIntosh had to play, is to like double down on Luke Fickell and in turn double down on my job. It's going to go one or two ways for the both of them. I think they're kind of tied at the hip now. And I felt like they were at the start, right? But now more so than ever after Thursday, these guys are either going to succeed together and laugh at everyone that doubted them, or they're going to fail together. And I think there's going to be a new AD and a new football coach, but that seems like a long way down the road right now.
Yeah. Ultimately, one more question for me before I get into some of the people that submitted questions. Excited to get your answers on some of their questions. Just ultimately, can this work? Like, can this be turned around? And maybe even a subset of that question, if they go 7-5 next year, 8-4, is that enough progress for fans to kind of forget about what has happened?
That's what I brought up to me and Perko did a show earlier today. And, 3 years ago, the talk was championships, and Thursday it was successes measured, not necessarily wins and losses. And like, I don't know, I think he said it was taken out of context or something like that. Like, I don't know, but that change in messaging from like where you were just 3 short years ago to we're not measuring in wins and losses. And again, maybe he didn't mean that, but like that stuck with me. And it would concern me as a Wisconsin fan, if you were a Wisconsin fan, is what if it's 6-6 next year and Chris McIntosh deems that a success and they're like, yeah, we're where we want to be. And I don't know. So and again, I don't think Mac is going to come out and say 9-3 is the goal for next year. And if we don't get it, we're cleaning house. I get that he's not going to say that, but it would be a little worrisome to me to know what Chris McIntosh level of success thinking is now as opposed to 3 years ago, because again, they made it a point to talk about championships, blending or meshing the elite and all the stuff that I took in and, to be honest with you, believed at the time. And now it's a different lens, right? It's a different messaging. We can't measure in wins and losses. Chris said a lot of different things. I don't know that like he wanted to hammer home that point or if he even meant to say that, but that was a takeaway for me of just how things have changed now over 3 years. It's from championships to, I don't know if wins and losses are the best way to gauge our success. That's alarming to me, because that just tells me that they don't think this is turning around anytime soon.
Yeah. Can I tell you my take on that? And you tell me if I'm crazy. I think, first of all, that's going back to tone deaf. That's a really poor thing to say in that situation, because you got to know that's going to get clipped. It's going to put on every social media post. That's all what people are going to talk about. That's a really bad thing to say in that spot, right? It goes back to me again to being a little tone deaf. I don't know if Mac is a great public speaker in settings like that. And I think he sometimes says things that he wishes he could rephrase a little bit. I don't even fully know, to your point, if that's what he meant. But again, it goes back to just the messaging and being a little tone deaf.
Yeah, right. And I would even maybe give him the benefit of the doubt that that's not what he meant, if he had to a redo on that. But like we talked about earlier, he set I don't think he set Jesse up with questions. In fact, I'm almost 99% sure that he didn't say, Jesse, these are the 7 questions you're going to ask me. I think Jesse came up with the questions. I think they were very appropriate. But like, he also coordinated this, right? Like, he reached out to, I'm sure, ESPN and said, this is our story that's coming out. He set the thing up with Jesse that was ready to drop as soon as the news with ESPN dropped. He said, I'll talk to, I believe, Mark Stewart, Colton Bartholomew. So like, all this was orchestrated, and it wasn't this, I'm going to take field questions from 50 different people and I'll be as best prepared as I possibly can, but I don't know what exactly, every single word I'm going to say is. So as much as he tried to control the narrative, that slipped out, right? Or that didn't come across right. And again, I'm sure that isn't exactly what he meant, but came out of his mouth. We got to take him for his word there.
Yeah. And the last point on this one, because I got a bunch I want to still get into, and I want to be very respectful of your time. It's just also the perception of it. When you set up interviews selectively, you're just fueling the perception that you're not there for the accountability, right or wrong. It's just that's what the perception is going to be. And that's what the output was. Let me ask you this. Good question from Brian Shetty. Kind of, again, moving the page forward, right? We've made the decision. What should Wisconsin fans be excited for going forward? Brian Shetty.
I guess I always turn to recruiting, right? And you can always kind of look at the youth of the program, and you could say they've recruited well, right? And that really, the classes that they signed, I don't think you can argue with that. I like their recruiting department. I'm maybe even more impressed with what they've done this year, considering the results on the field, to continue to grind, to continue to get 4 kids up for OVs this weekend. I do think that's a strength, and that's something that has been improved from the previous regime, and that's not even a question, right? So I think you kind of always turn to youth, and you turn to the future of what that recruiting could potentially do to you. Now, I know that answer doesn't satisfy people, right? And you can't just say, well, we're young, we're going to get better. You can't just keep playing that card. You can't keep rolling that out. But other than that, there's not a whole lot to look through. And I think a lot of people have kind of written this season off, and some people are just maybe checked out. But like I wrote today, Washington's a big deal, because you have a large chunk of this roster who are playing for their future team, whether that be Wisconsin or whether that be their intentions to go in the transfer portal. And you have a guy like Carter Smith, who, if he plays well over 4 games here, and I expect to see him against Washington here, that can spark a whole lot of hope of like, we got a quarterback, or like, we feel like this guy could at least compete for that starting job next year. So like, if you're looking for something to be excited about, I don't want to put it all on Carter Smith, but a lot of that rests on him and these younger guys. Even if you go 0-4, and that's kind of the expectation, I think. But like, if Catalano and Mason Posa have a really strong finish to this year, Carter Smith looks like he can compete for the job next year. Gideon Atuka and some of these younger pieces, if you can retain them, then you can sell some sort of hope. But look, it starts with the quarterback. So if Carter can give you anything that we can, chop up and digest on the podcast or writing or the message boards up until spring camp, I mean, that is kind of the hope that you could sell going into a pretty bleak 2026, right?
I think that's it. Yeah, it's the young talent, and it's that talented quarterback. And if he has a good game, if he comes out and he shows a spark, given how low the bar has been, like, you will be able to build some excitement off that, because quarterbacks can change programs.
Yep.
And they've been so bad there. They have been so bad there. So
Yeah.
some type of spark there, I think, does change something. Brett asks, does this help to retain some of those commits, do you think, big picture?
Yes. Again, commits are different than fans. And that is a message that, I kind of try to hammer home, when the commits, they saw this big blowout loss. Well, take the fan side out of you, right? When you're kind of, asking that question, analyzing that, it's good to this last push here before December 3rd to say, Luke FICKELL is our coach. And people can make, again, like, that's not what the fan base wants to hear, but as they're getting into these conversations, as they're fending off other schools, they can say Luke FICKELL is our head coach in 2026. And to me, that's huge. And again, I know what the fan base thinks, but when you're talking to these recruits, when you're having those conversations, and maybe even more importantly, the guys in the locker room, there's no question now, right? And you could choose to go whatever way you want with that, but at least they don't have to tiptoe around that question. At least if a school comes in and said, well, there's no stability in that program, Pat or whoever it might be said, you know what? Luke FICKELL is without a doubt coming back in 2026. So again, that goes back to what we talked about earlier of, at least everyone's on the same page. At least the messaging is clear. At least the messaging can go out to the roster, the recruits, portal guys. They all have that same common ground of where Wisconsin's at. So I do think, that message was largely, I would say, to the 26 class to say publicly, this is the future of our program. The guy that you committed to will be here next year. We need you to sign on December 3rd. So absolutely. In my opinion, it does.
That's really well said. All right, we're going to take one more quick break, come back with a few more of your questions. Again, we're going to run out of time before we run out of questions with the great Jon McNamara, but we will get a couple more of them in after this. First, a quick second, our friends of the show over at Supply House. If you're starting a big project, maybe you got a lot of electrical, plumbing, you're running a team, Supply House is there. They've got you covered. Whether it's a new repair or a new project, they'll keep your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today, and you're going to see those parts on your doorstep by tomorrow. So you get that next day shipping to keep you moving forward, to protect your blind side and help you save money. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. This will keep you moving forward. Trade Master perks, free phone support, makes the whole process smoother. Right now, join the free Trademaster program today. Score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free. Use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order over at Supply House. Real people, real service. All right, Jon, let's finish up here. And again, really do appreciate the time. I know you got a lot going on as always. Thoughts? I think we almost have to go here. So Chris is asking about potential portal quarterbacks. It's hard to put together a list of names, but bigger picture, if you are going to promise we're going to pump money into this program, we're going to raise the investment level, does that almost necessarily mean you got to go in the portal and get a higher profile quarterback, almost regardless of what Carter Smith does?
Yeah, I mean, you can't roll. I don't know if you can roll Carter, Danny O'Neal back, right? And those are the two guys that just have the eligibility. And Milos is in that same situation. I know Wisconsin went into this year saying this will be the year that we stop doing that, but I don't think there's any possible way, unless even if Carter were to come in and set the world on fire. Looking at the last 3 years, you need depth pieces, right? And Wisconsin has been absolutely snake bitten. So if you want to look at a pro Luke FICKELL thing, I mean, the luck at quarterback that they have has been just atrocious, right? I don't think they'll experience something like that in the next handful of years, but you do have to go after another quarterback. And then it becomes difficult of, do you come in and tell the quarterback, like you have the last 3 years, you will be our starter, or you come in and say, you're going to compete with Carter Smith? And those are two very different conversations with two very different pay levels, right? And two very different type of prospects. So even if Carter, like I said, sets the world on fire, you have to go try to get the best possible quarterback you can in the portal, and just let those guys go out and compete. Or just your messaging in the portal, say, hey, we got a freshman that we really like, but you're a proven commodity. You're going to command X amount of dollars. You're going to be QB1. And if it upsets other prospects, and so be it. You can't, especially given the history, you have to go out and attack that position in the portal. You might need two. I don't know. You can't go without a quarterback in the portal in 26, even though that's what Wisconsin tried to avoid, but that's the reality of the situation.
100% agree. And if you upset somebody, honestly, you have to oversign at that position. It is what it is.
Right. I mean, I've said it before, they should be taking two quarterbacks in every cycle. They really should. And I don't care about scholarship limit, number, whatever. I mean, the messages should be from day one, we're taking two guys, because that's what college football is, at least at the higher level. It is proven that guys will go, 2 5-stars will sign with Georgia with the understanding that one of us is surviving and the other one will transfer. And it doesn't make people uncomfortable, right? It doesn't make that level of athlete uncomfortable, because they have shown that they will enter into those type of situations. Now, I'm not saying Wisconsin is telling 5-star quarterbacks, nah, we got our guy, we can't sign two, but take two and one is going to come out. And there's an understanding amongst that quarterback group that that's just the way it goes. Again, at higher level programs, you bring in two great guys, one's going to survive. You bring in 4 over 2 cycles, one might survive, maybe two. That's just the way it goes right now. It's not college football in the past where you could say, hey, we got our quarterback and we're good for a year or two. It's too important. There's too much at stake not to attack it.
I love that. Because listen, Scott Tolzien was a 2-star guy and ended up being one of the better. I think you get, and Wisconsin's different than Georgia, as you pointed out. So maybe you get the Ryan Hopkins, and then you also find a developmental 2-star guy. And who knows, right? Because quarterbacks are weird. It's hard to identify. So get more in the room. Cream rises to the top. In the portal area, the ones that don't are going to leave. I 100% agree there. A couple questions on this. So DD Baller asks, would hiring a former Badger from the state of Wisconsin, almost as it was coach's ambassador, kind of help with some of those criticisms? And then Chris also mentions thoughts on the in-state high school recruiting situation. So multiple questions here.
Yeah, so I'm hoping you guys have been reading our board, because I alluded to this. And there's been a lot of Wisconsin high school discussion. I don't know that there's a consensus Luke Fickell's bad in Wisconsin. I think you could pull all different eras of Wisconsin football and find some high school coaches that haven't been satisfied, because I've talked to some that would be like, yeah, I like their process. I like how they've been coming into our high school, or I've seen them more than Chris. And again, there's so many high schools that you're going to get maybe different messaging. You saw Arrowhead's coach come out and say, I wasn't part of that survey. I like how things are going. Things are good here. So again, it's not at a Gary Anderson level where I think the consensus was this is wrong. This isn't right. I don't feel comfortable with how things are going. But I put this on our message board. I would say one guy in our recruiting department is going to be our Wisconsin high school prep level contact. All he does for 60 hours a week is build relationships with high school coaches. Every chance that he can get out there during eval periods, he's at those high schools. He's at Catholic Memorial. He's at Franklin. He's at Wanakee. He's at Arrowhead a ton, Kimberly. But he's going to maintain relationships with the D7s, the D6s, because if a guy pops up, we're going to have a guy in place. And I think high school coaches in general like to know that I have one point person. I have a Ben Strickland. I have a Chris Herring. I have I'm missing Bob Bosted. Like when things are rolling, those high school coaches know I can call Bosted on the phone and he's going to listen to me. If I got a guy, I can call Bosted and he's going to relay that to the top. Now, whether the message gets there or not, these guys want to feel like they're heard, right? And that's part of the disconnect that I don't know that Luke and this group has. They certainly didn't know it when they started, and I still don't know if they appreciate it enough today. And this ties into the fan base. Fans get behind in-state kids, and I get the other side of it is I'm not going to take an in-state kid just to take an in-state kid, but now you're losing the in-state kids that can play at this level, and you're seeing in-state kids go elsewhere and have success. It has to be important because there is a component to that ties the fans in. Fans love in-state kids. And if it was a coin flip, an in-state kid or a kid from Pennsylvania, they check a lot of the similar boxes. You got to take the in-state kid, in my opinion, because there is that invested fan interest in that. So again, I would 100%, if one of the things that I would change, and it's not a knock on the recruiting department right now because there is emphasis on recruiting inside the state, but just for an pure optics standpoint, we are bringing this guy. All he does every day is worry about Wisconsin kids. All he does every day is worry about Wisconsin high school coaches. That's his entire focus. And I that would be a change to me. But like, I like that. I like that they did that. I think that is I'm listening to the feedback. I'm listening to what the customer, right, is saying, and we're addressing that problem. I think that's a small thing that they could do to the larger scope of all the problems that they do have going on right now.
I think that's well said. I would hire you for that role if you're available.
No one loves high school. Well, maybe Travis Wilson, but I might be second.
You'd be in there. But, you hit on something I thought was really smart. You mentioned optics of it. Sometimes you just have to build a bit of a coalition, and you have to take care of the low-hanging fruit.
Without a doubt. And this is a just an easy one. This is like you're putting it on a tee. Like, yeah, we want to focus on, and maybe nothing changes, but at least those high school coaches can say, I know that Joe Smith is our new high school contact, and I can call this guy. I got his cell phone number. I can text him. He'll respond to me within 5 minutes. And I feel good about that, because if I got a guy, I don't got anyone right now, but if I got a guy in 2 years, I'm going to make sure Joe Smith knows about this guy, and he's going to have his film, and I'm going to take him to camp, and I'm going to get him on campus, and I'm going to say to this guy when he's a freshman in my high school, yeah, Wisconsin, they're there, they know about you. Let's begin that process. I think largely the coaches just want to know, who can I turn to when I feel like I got a guy in my hallways that can play at that level, and not even a power 2 level, but this guy might be a walk-on. Like, this kid is just a touch undersized. he's not getting power 4, power 2 interest, but like, he grew up and there's 19 posters of Wisconsin Badgers in his room. He wants to be a Badger. I think they just want to get that message out there, and they don't want to feel like they're being ignored, and they don't want to feel like their guys are being passed up by kids from Ohio or Pennsylvania or Minnesota, wherever that might be. They want to feel appreciated, and they deserve that. Like, they really do. Like, football's good in Wisconsin. You could knock the overall high level prospects, but look, the WIAC is the best D3 conference in the country, and credit to every single person that has their fingerprints on that in the state of Wisconsin as a high school football coach. And we send a lot of D2 guys, a lot of FCS D1 guys. North Dakota State's a program that is feasted on Wisconsin guys. So I just feel like that group needs to be appreciated because they deserve that, right? And then when you got a guy and you're battling Wisconsin versus Notre Dame, and you got that high school coach in your corner a little bit, that helps, right? And like you talked about, Ryan, it's an optics thing too. Like, you want to get some fans back on base. Hey, get 6 out of the 7 studs in the 27 class. That's a way to say, hey, we're on the right track here. If you go and knock this 27 class out, and it's going to be tough, but there's guys on the table that you can hit on. Nick Osen just put out a crystal ball for one of them. You want to go check the site right now. So those are the type of things that, like, optically, you can concrete show, yeah, we're doing this. These are the results here. Again, it's got to translate to the field. I get that, but listen to what the fans are saying and address some of those areas there.
Yeah, get the easy wins. I 100% agree with that. Do you have time for just a couple more questions? Let me know.
I got plenty of time. Keep it rolling.
Okay, we got several, and I want to be very careful of your time here. Ryan B, I assume specifics can't be given, but anything that you picked up just in terms of the money, the actual change, like, we already kind of hit on this, but what do they actually mean? Like, where's that money coming from? Is there any type of, in a very broad sense, where that might put Wisconsin in the Big Ten?
Those are great questions. And I think that those are the questions everyone wants to know. I have been told that there were some hurdles in terms of moving money around in the past. And like, I'm not like, and now I can't tell you beyond that, but like, that has come up before of like, Wisconsin feels good about where they are money-wise, but they're not able to get it to where it needs to be. And I know that's a very vague answer, and that's not a great answer, but I've heard that come up from more than one or two people. I think part of that is Chris McINTOSH and maybe Mnuchin feel like the stream of money is now, like, the gates are open for that, or we feel better about how that process is going to get into those athletes. But in terms of specifics and numbers, I just don't know. Another piece to this, and not exactly translating to money, but right after Maryland, we started to get talks, and we put this on our board of, hey, can Wisconsin get an Andrew Luck type of general manager in place where Luke reports to him or her? I don't want to single anyone out. Don't want to eliminate anyone from that potential job, right? And that person then reports to Mnuchin, and that's the streamline there. And Andrew Luck was the name brought up. I don't know if Wisconsin has an Andrew Luck. I mean, you could say Joe Thomas, you could say JJ Watt. I don't know if those guys are interested or, quite honestly, like, qualified. I mean, I don't know that you could just put, hey, this guy played in the NFL, just have him do it. I think Luck maybe brings a more specific skill set. I don't really know, but that was something that, in terms of how to change this to make it better into year 4, that was without a doubt brought up. I don't know if that's in the plans. I do think that has been brought to the table, though, of let's restructure how this looks, where we have someone overseeing the program. Mac controls the rest of the athletic department, but that also tells me that they understand, and this isn't rocket scientists, right? Like, football is the driver of everything. Why wouldn't you have someone just overseeing the most important automobile that you got in the garage, the one that fuels up every other car in the garage? So that one to me makes sense. And again, Mac's not going to say that yesterday, right? We're going to do this, but I do think that's been discussed, and maybe that's something that we do hear about in the spring, in the winter. That would not surprise me if a bigger general manager is put into place outside of Marcus Sedbury, who has that title right now, but I think they want it to look a little bit different. And again, the name that was thrown out to me was Ryan Leaf. Ryan Leaf, I apologize.
That'd be amazing.
Andrew Luck at Stanford. I don't know where Ryan Leaf came from.
Listen, I thought you were promoting potentially Ryan Leaf coming to Madison to be the GM. I'm like, let's talk about left turns. Let's go.
No.
Let's finish on this one. And again, I super appreciate the time. I encourage every single person to go check out 247 if you're not already there. Jake Kokorowski asks, please ask Mac his favorite memory of me from our time over at Badger Blitz.
Jeez, Jake. I don't know if I have one specific one. I mean, Jake's just the guy. I mean, he's just a good guy to work with because he's reliable. He's always happy. Like I don't know. Sometimes that made me mad about Jake. He was always happy. He was always nice to people. But no, I mean, it's good to work with professionals. And Jake was a professional. Ben Morgle's a professional. Nick Osen, Payne. Like it's good to wake up knowing that like that guy's going to take care of business every day. So it seems like a long time ago that we were working at Badger Blitz together, but Jake's doing great stuff right now. I encourage you guys to check out his work. So yeah, I mean, it's good to work with professionals, and Jake was a professional.
Yeah, Jake's great people, man. I've come to become friends later than you guys certainly did, but over at Badger Observer, as you said, go check out Jake's work for sure. Jon, man, thank you so much for tuning in or jumping on again. I really do appreciate it. Everybody go check out his work at 247 plus Osen and Payne. Great people. And shout out to Payne getting engaged. Amazing news for him. So shout out to our good friend Payne as well. Jon, thank you, man. Good luck this weekend, and we'll definitely sync up later.
Sounds great, Ryan. Appreciate you.